I'm going to call this meeting of the Sequim City Council to order. Everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Can the city clerk please take roll?
Counselor Downer,
Here.
Counselor Butler,
Here.
Counselor Lowe,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Present.
Mayor Janice,
Present.
Counselor Rudder,
Here.
Counselor Farrell.
Councilor Farrell will be absent this evening. Is there a motion to excuse him?
I move to excuse Counselor Farrell from the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any objections? Seeing none, he's excused. All right. Approval of the final agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda that we want to make?
Move to accept the agenda as published.
I second it. I second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any objections? All right, seeing none, the motion passes. All right, moving on to item 5, ceremonial. Have a couple proclamations here. This first one deals with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Whereas Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia on January 15th, 1929, when racial segregation was the law of the land. And whereas Dr. King became a great civil rights leader who challenged us to make real the promise of America as the land of freedom, equality, opportunity, and brotherhood through peaceful protests and nonviolent acts. And whereas in August 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom to draw attention to the continuing challenges and inequalities faced by African Americans a century after emancipation and to advocate for their civil and economic rights. And whereas during the march, 250,000 people gathered in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and heard Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And whereas, although he supported nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience, Dr. King was often the victim of violence, and on April 4th, 1968, he was assassinated. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, commemorating Dr. King's contribution to the civil rights movement, became a federal holiday in 1983, but wasn't observed officially until 1986. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service to encourage all Americans to volunteer to improve their communities. And whereas during the last quarter century, the Martin Luther King Day of Service has grown and its impact has increased as more Americans embrace the idea that citizenship involves taking an active role in improving communities. Now, therefore, I, Brandon Janice, Mayor of the City of Sequim, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 15th, 2024, as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a holiday, a day of service, and a celebration of the civil rights leader's life and legacy. Signed this 22nd day of January, 2004.
Thank you.
Anybody want to make a comment? Yeah. Okay. And the second one. And where this is one that deals with Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Whereas human trafficking, also known as trafficking in persons, including both forced labor and sex trafficking, it not only represents a threat to international peace and security, but also undermines the rule of law, robs millions of their dignity and freedom, enriches transnational criminals and terrorists, and threatens public safety and national security everywhere. And whereas the Federal Trafficking Victims Protection Act passed in 2010 enshrines the United States commitment to combating human trafficking domestically and internationally. And whereas in 2010, by presidential proclamation, President Barack Obama declared January National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And every year since, each president has followed this tradition. And whereas human trafficking is a humanitarian crisis that is a form of modern-day slavery, human trafficking disproportionately impacts racial and ethnic minorities, women and girls, LGBTQI+ individuals, vulnerable migrants, and other historically marginalized and underserved communities. And whereas there are estimated to be more than 27.6 million people, adults and children, subjected to human trafficking around the world, including in the United States, traffickers often take advantage of instability caused by natural disasters, conflict, or a pandemic to exploit others. Whereas the city of Sequim joins President Joe Biden in proclaiming January 2024 as National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, we make this proclamation to raise awareness of this issue, to educate the public on how to identify and prevent this crime, and to issue a call to action for all to recognize the vital role everyone can play in combating all forms of human trafficking. And now, therefore, I, Brandon Janice, Mayor of the City of Sequim, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize January 2024 as National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Signed this 22nd day of January 2024. And I do believe there is Ms. Coaster, I hope I said that right, that would like to speak on that.
Yes, I believe I have promoted her to a panelist, and you are able to speak now if you unmute your microphone.
Good evening. Yes, I'd like to speak to the proclamation and commend you for adopting it this evening at the City Council meeting. My name's Dee Coaster, and I'm Executive Director of the Washington State Native American Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. We also have the Indigenous Crime Victim Services Resource and Referral Center and the Sahu-Hawaii Family Safety Center, all located in the Fifth Avenue Business Complex in Sequim. We've been working with tribal and Native survivors for over 22 years, going on our 23rd year. And in the Clallam County area, we're particularly susceptible to sex trafficking for a few reasons. One is the high addiction rate to drugs, isolation, the casino. Drugs are trafficked through this area quite often, and we quite often catch them. Homelessness is another vulnerability, and homeless teens. So we are susceptible in this area to sex trafficking. And so I'd like to thank you for this proclamation on behalf of Women's Spirit Coalition and the other programs that I manage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from council? All right, moving on. Item 6, public comment. City Clerk.
The public comment sheet will be collected for those attending in person. Comments will be taken every other one from those attending virtually, by phone, or in person. For individuals attending in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. For those attending virtually or by phone, if you would like to provide a public comment, please now press the raise your hand icon or if you're on the phone, press star 9. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic, and there will be a timer visible on the screen. A total of 30 minutes will be permitted to provide comment. Please state your name, city of residence, and if you're representing an organization. Again, for those of you virtual or on the phone, please now press the raise your hand icon or star 9. Anthony, do we have anyone online wishing to speak?
No, we do not.
And I have no one signed up to speak in person, so that concludes public comment.
Thank you. Moving on, consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read the consent agenda?
On tonight's consent agenda, we have item A, claim vouchers totaling $980,857.76. Item B, the city council meeting minutes from January 8th, 2024. Item C, a code update to Sequim Municipal Code, Chapter 12.12, ditch culverts, that's an ordinance. Item D, the right-of-way acquisition procedures, that's a resolution. Item E, the Economic Development Council Committee assignment. And that is on the consent agenda tonight.
Everybody okay with the consent agenda? Someone like to make a motion to approve it?
Move to approve consent agenda as published.
I second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. All right, under item 8, general business, updated moratorium on applications and permits for mobile home parks.
Greetings, Council. Sharice Deshanes, Deputy City Manager, Community and Economic Development Director. I'm here tonight to just give a brief overview about kind of our process and timelines regarding our moratorium on applications and permits for redevelopment of mobile home and manufactured home parks. Back in August, you approved the moratorium and we held a public hearing. And since that time, we've been working with the Planning Commission to evaluate different options moving forward. In tonight's meeting, I'm not intending to get into the details of the options that we're working with the Planning Commission on, only to give you an update of our timeline and outline that. But know that we are diving deep into the 5 topics of the comprehensive plan, zoning or zoning overlay changes, looking at other options like tenant opportunity to purchase ordinance, relocation assistance, anti-displacement options, and establishing a housing authority or working with our existing housing authority. Now, some of those options that we're looking in, I anticipate that the Planning Commission would say that they're not kind of a feasible lift or would give maybe higher priority to some of the options. From our recent discussions, those are items 1 and 2, revision to the comprehensive plan, and also looking at the zoning code, either an overlay or a change to the zoning ordinance, which the details I'll get into on the 12th, but we are preparing you for the request of an extension to the moratorium, and that requires a public hearing and to bring forward our work program for you. And in tonight's meeting, I have provided a work plan and next steps, and that is, I'm not going to go step by step in that. I'm assuming you've already read through that, but really going through the details with the Planning Commission, getting their recommendation, bringing that back to you, drafting ordinance updates and updates to the comprehensive plan, and then going back to public comment through the Planning Commission. Once that's ready to go to you and close to final format, we'll be submitting a SEPA, State Environmental Policy Act, and also sending it to the Department of Commerce for review. And we need to be nearly complete by the time we take that to the Department of Commerce. So the outlined timeline in front of you includes the kind of work behind the scenes, the work with the Planning Commission, the public meetings, the requirements that we need to meet for the state, and then coming back with public hearings and that public engagement piece. So I'm here to answer any questions tonight. And again, we expect more attendance from the public on the 12th, and we will have a public hearing as well.
Questions from council?
Yeah, thanks, Sharice. Can you clarify the 6-month clock, and then assuming the extension passes, I'm assuming it's another 6 months?
Yes.
I'm trying to
and
figure out from the dates why it expires on the 12th of February if it,
That was 6 months from the actual date of adoption of the moratorium itself. So you had,
February, in August 14th, is that?
I believe, in, of course, let me see.
Yeah.
I wrote it down, June 12th. So at the August 23rd, in response to the motions made on June 12th, moratorium ordinance was prepared for consideration.
Yeah.
So yes,
August 14th. was
Yes.
passed. Okay.
Yeah.
But it
And
would be
then-
a subsequent 6 months then.
correct. And what it says is that, you bring that work program forward. Anytime you would extend 6 months, you have to show that you're progressing forward, and then request that work program and hold another public hearing to extend. And I think you can go beyond a year if you need to, but I think in the work that we have in front of us, I think we can meet that timeline. And just note that in my draft timeline, I tried to give a little bit of varying, like really open times, just because if the Planning Commission wants to dive into the details more, that could push us back a little bit. And in public comment will probably impact that work as well. So,
And this work plan is sort of a critical path. You've
yeah,
got to finish one before you take on the next one. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council?
It can be renewed more than once, correct?
I believe so. I can't remember the exact language in the moratorium or the RCW, but I'm pretty sure it can be renewed.
Okay,
more than
because there's not much we can do about the state changing their guidelines.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I do. Maybe.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Okay. I just wish that there's something more we could do, but right now this is all we can do, so we should do it.
Yes. Thank you.
I guess what I have to say is to everybody in the audience that came here for this item tonight, make sure you go to the Planning Commission meetings and get your input there. So that way the details can be worked out there before they get here to final voting. Because by then it may be too late, but if you get in early, like next week, wouldn't it?
So on February 6th is the next Planning Commission meeting. So if you haven't been notified about that, that's when our next Planning Commission meeting will be held.
5 or 6,
We start at 5:30.
5:30.
And we do have a member of the audience that's been very helpful of spreading the word throughout the manufactured home park, mobile home park community. So thank you, sir.
So yeah,
And ma'am,
that's
yeah.
the start of the process. So make sure you get all your comments, suggestions into Sharice or any of the other planning commissioners. That way we can address it when it gets here to your content. So I mean, make sure we get all of you protected in the future. So
And just to note, we're hoping to also bring it to you more than one time so that you have, so that the city council is seeing not a final product, but that you can make a motion and say, hey, you're on the right path, Planning Commission, or we would anticipate some changes regarding X kind of thing.
I just want to make sure that when it comes to us, there's no major changes that have to go back and be made because we weren't paying attention prior.
Gotcha.
So.
Thank you. Mhm. Yeah, the meetings are here in the city council chambers, 5:30 PM, the first and third Tuesday of the month.
And they're also hybrid.
Yeah,
And
with
hybrid.
You can
remote, yeah.
participate by Zoom as well.
And if you're not able to make it in personally, always feel free to send emails too, and they'll go on the record as well. So, any other questions or comments from council?
I just wanted to mention also that we were covering all of the bases for folks to be participating. They can also watch a recording of the meeting as well in this digital age. We have that available to us. And then if you have questions or comments after watching the recording, then please send in your emails. Just we're here to help.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, code update, Squim Municipal Code, Chapter 2.06, City Manager, second touch. City Manager.
Thank you. That came up kind of fast for me here. So I think this was just bringing back what was presented at the last meeting. As you probably have seen in the cover sheet, we made the changes that you identified or asked us to do, and just wanted to bring it back to you for review and input on answer any questions. I think I tried to break it into the last cover sheet had 3 parts to it, A, B, C. We've now numbered them 1, 2, 3, just to be clear. And again, number 1, you had kind of pre-approved, but you can look at that again. 2 was you weren't uncomfortable with the word policy, as we were, and we deleted that. And 3 was you all wanted to look at the previous code and language that talked about the length of time that city manager could enter into a lease agreement for the city. So any questions?
My only question, and probably is more to Amy, the clerk, and that's just how do we fill in the blanks in the proposed motion with the right number? It's probably my own naivete.
So yeah, that's what the discussion was on last time on what we want
Right.
the year to be. So we can discuss if you have a.
My preference is that we maintain the status quo
Which
With
is 5 years.
5 years. So in the proposed motion, it's ordinance 2024-0 blank. And I'm wondering what that, and the
In the
preamble to
proposed
that says,
motion?
the preamble to that says we need to fill in that number. And I don't know how to do that.
Oh, I move to adopt ordinance 2004. And then, is that what your question is, or the
Right,
bottom?
To maintain the status quo for the city manager.
Oh, so
Excuse me, council purposes of the record, Christina Nelson Gross, city attorney. That blank on the motion for maintaining the status quo is a yet as unassigned ordinance number. So the clerks have a numbering system. Amy, feel free to jump in, but we have a numbering system that for tracking purposes, the clerks do not assign that number until after something has been passed.
Gotcha.
So don't worry about that. If you
Thank
want
you.
to
So-
maintain the status quo, it would be sufficient if you just made that motion
Efficient.
stating that.
Without having to fill in that blank.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You'll also see that on resolutions as well. It just depends on what gets passed from council and what doesn't. We don't want to presume something and then have a missing number. So it would just be that main blank on if you're changing the number of years, or just that first motion if you're continuing it. And that's up for council discussion tonight.
Thank you. I went away learning something this week.
So the other question is, it's been at 5 years. Or it's been being done at 5 years. Are we going to make it official, or are we going to change it? And I guess I was the only person that had any questions about that. I mean, I didn't hear, did you, Brandon? I didn't really hear anything from anybody else on council about being uncomfortable with signing contracts for 5 years.
I did have some reservation.
What's the compromise then?
Well, looking at the list that was supplied for what they do sign, it makes sense. I think I would be okay with keeping it at 5, with the understanding that just let us know when you sign something, so we're in the loop. I mean, because most of it's, okay, but I had no idea half of this stuff, so unless I ask.
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to make sure I do that. It looks like it predates many of us since it goes back to 2002. So I will make sure that somehow I capture anything I sign that meets that request. So happy to do that.
And there have not been any issues, right, with any 5-year leases? Okay.
I see that Harmony has her hand up, but I will quickly mention that I'm not sure what you mean by issues, right, in terms of signing. But if you're asking about litigation for those 5-year lease agreements, I'm not aware of any.
No, I didn't mean it litigation. I just meant nobody has complained about it. I mean, the vendors or the people that rent the buildings from the city, nothing has come up about it, correct?
No, and just as a practical matter, I would suspect that if council, I'm trying to say this carefully without imparting an opinion, but so an example was something that came up just the other day, that if the city manager did not have the authority that currently exists in code, we would have to delay this. And I think it was for something for 3 days for the Sunshine Festival or something like that. We would have to go through this bureaucratic process of getting that on the council agenda, creating cover sheets, telling the vendor or whoever it is that is wanting the contract that we have to wait until it goes before council. Not a problem, not something that staff cannot do, but I suspect that if that was what we were to go and start implementing, that we might be hearing some complaints about that.
That wasn't my intention when this came up. It was the year, 5 years, not a
Understood.
3-day festival. And okay,
Understood, right? But I'm just using that as the most recent example of that. And I don't know that we would have complaints about that. So
thank you, Harmony.
Just wanted to bring in something that I remember Tom saying last time. He mentioned that businesses or other entities that are looking to rent or lease a facility from the city would that coming in and starting an organization or an enterprise or what have you, like creating the space to do whatever it is that they intend to do with that building, that that 5 years seemed like a logical amount of time for an organization, because in that 5-year period, there's enough time for them to be to grow what they're doing and to develop what their business, and whether it's a nonprofit. If it's a nonprofit, it wouldn't really, this doesn't apply. But if it's a business, it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to start a business or whatever, and that's not on the list that was put here, but I think that there's a lot of, I'm just going to echo what Tom said. I think there's a lot of logic to having it be 5 years, that if someone or an organization or a business is going to go into the business of being a business, that having it maybe, I don't know, maybe it's back and forth, and I suppose it's dependent on each situation. It's very separate variables for each situation, but I think that would be a reasonable amount of time for someone to say, I'm going to make a go at doing a business. And then if it was anything shorter, maybe that wouldn't be long enough for them, because there's like giving birth to the business entity, creating an EIN. I don't need to go into all that detail, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I just wanted to echo what Tom shared last meeting. I thought there was a lot of logic to that. Thanks.
My concern was not discouraging business. My concern was tying up a city asset for 5 years if there was any plans in the near future to using it for something else. But apparently only 2 of us had that concern. So I'm comfortable with the 5 years. Thank you.
I'm prepared to make a motion. I didn't know if Dan had.
Same.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you do this one.
Okay,
And I'll
excellent. Thanks.
second. Yeah.
Thanks. I move to adopt the ordinance amending SMC Chapter 2.06 and to maintain the status quo for the city manager's leasing authority.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Okay, item C, Square Municipal Code, Chapter 2.60, Emergency Management. This is a first touch. Chief Crane.
So obviously this is just part of the code scrub. So a lot of the changes are just innocuous cleaning up of language. We did change up a significant paragraph that kind of talked about process, digital copies, how to access those copies, just trying to change the language as to boots on the ground, how it's actually done, change the sequence referenced in there as far as when council approves the SEMP versus when it goes to the state. And I use SEMP, sorry about that, Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. So we just cleaned that language up and added a little bit of reference to Emergency Management Coordinator, which is now available to us. So happy to answer any questions that you have, but pretty simple overall.
Questions from council? All right. There's two motions if somebody's interested.
Happy to move to waive second touch on this matter, direct staff to prepare an ordinance amending SMC Chapter 2.6, Emergency Management, to present to the consent agenda of the next available meeting.
And I second that.
Moved and seconded. Any additional comment from council?
This is as good a time as any to comment generally and specifically here how helpful I find these cover sheets and the summaries. It's just really terrific. So thank you.
And there's a motion. Is any opposed to the motion? All right, seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Item D is another code update, Squib Municipal Code, Chapter 3.78, guarantees and bond. This is first touch.
Good evening, Council. Sarah Van Osdol, Public Works Director. Yes, this is episode 3 in tonight's Code Scrub programming for you. And the one I'm bringing to you focuses on the city's procedures for obtaining, holding, and releasing the guarantees and the bonds that we require for various land use or public infrastructure permits. And so again, like Sherry said, just cleaning up some language and providing clarification. This does sort of identify the Administrative Services Director's role in the process as well. And then it goes into a little bit more definition as to what these bonds are actually for, defines the difference between a maintenance bond and a warranty bond, that type of thing. Pretty straightforward, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are they all about the same waiting time?
2 years.
Okay.
I don't think we can go beyond 2 years by RCW. Correct.
I'm sorry, I was reading something else. What specifically?
She asked about the length of the time. Are they all 2 years?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because I tried to make one longer at one time and she told me no.
The statute told you no.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, there is a motion. If anybody would like to make one.
I'm on a roll. I move to waive the second touch on this matter and direct staff to present an ordinance on the consent agenda for the next available meeting.
I second.
Second it.
That's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
Item E, code update, Squib Municipal Code, Chapter 8.20, fireworks and sky lanterns. This is first touch.
Good evening, Joel Dressel, Building Official and Fire Marshal. So this update's just for clarifying and updating our regulations on fireworks stand permits, displays and enforcements, eliminating the $100 refundable deposit. That's really about it. Is there any questions?
What is a sky lantern?
There's different paper lanterns that actually almost like they carry a flame up into the sky. So those are not allowed in the city. They weren't before and they continue to not be allowed, but none of that language really changed too much other than just some wordsmithing and updating.
Any other questions?
I'm okay to remove the bond. I'm just curious that mentions there is another fee, just a standard fee in SMC 3.68. And I was too lazy and didn't look that up. What is the standard fee?
So there is a fireworks stand temporary use fee for $100 for the fireworks stand permit. The $100 refundable deposit, we removed that language because it took more staff time than was
Like the
necessary for
total
what it was. That $100 is also an RCW that doesn't allow us to charge any more than that. So we just put it to the rates and fee table instead of calling a dollar amount in case that ever changes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, prepared to entertain a motion.
I will make a motion. I move to waive the second touch on this matter and direct staff to present an ordinance on the consent agenda for the next available meeting.
I second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Item F, council retreat review. City manager.
Thank you, council, or mayor and council. I think you all started this last week in the discussion part of your agenda, and you asked us to follow up and to try to help you fine tune some of the variables that might go in, some of the options that might go into a council retreat. So Marin's here. She can answer some of the questions, but she has provided the administrative kind of oversight on creating a survey. I think you, in the cover sheet, we've outlined the responses of the survey as well as providing it as an attachment. I think it's really now up to you. We just wanted to get all of this to you in enough time for you all to start pondering how each other responded, so you could have a healthy discussion today and give staff further direction on how you'd like to proceed. Marin, did you have any other insights?
Yes, thank you. Marin Packer, Executive Assistant for the city. Since we did have to adjust the dates, I reached back out to all of our facilitators, and unfortunately, Aperture EQ would not be available for facilitation. So that is an adjustment that's been updated since the report has come out.
Thank you. I noticed that one of us is not available on the 27th, and other dates have been proposed. And now I need to be another person throwing a monkey wrench. And I am no longer available on the 27th, even though I had responded that I would be. So, the April 9 or April 15 would both work for me.
I do believe that required some more discussion, and we can send another, email or survey with where you select from the dates. But we're trying to work around everybody's schedule, and certain people are only available certain days. So we had to kind of extend the option there at the last minute. As a result of the survey, we found out that certain days were only going to work for certain people. So.
And it will be remarkable if we get a date that everybody is available on.
So I think a suggestion that I have to keep this moving is, let's see if we can agree on what we can tonight. So length of time chosen. I think it was 6 hours on the survey. Is everybody still okay with that? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So do 6 hours. Location. I think it was here. Everybody okay with that? Thumbs up. So date we're still looking on. Facilitator or organization. That one will probably take a little bit since there's so many that are available. Did anybody have any comments on any of them?
Yeah.
We don't have a date.
My comment would be, until we get a date, we're going to end up with.
Well, I think it's all but one, yeah. Well, did anybody have any comments on any of them to be at least begin with? Councilor Lowe?
The only one I'm familiar with is Reed, and I know they do a lot of work at the state level and the city level and do a good job, but that's the only one on there that I've ever run into.
Who was it again?
Reed, REED.
The one that I would probably comment on is I did liked the idea when I came across it of Jurassic Parliament. So,
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Burke.
Berg.
Yeah.
Two new ones, man. I have, but like I said, it's just a facilitator of what we actually want to do during the retreat, which is if everybody did their homework, I think, is everybody working on what they want the retreat to be? So that way we don't go in there head chopped off, run around like chickens. We have an idea what to give to whoever the person facilitated it is, so that way they can help move that along.
So I'm going to guess 6 hours. That's 4 topics, right?
It's however
No more
many.
than 4?
I think, yeah, we chose what, 4 that was on the.
4 or 5.
So those options were based off of last year's visions and goals. You can absolutely increase that. It's council's discretion. If you want to add more visions and goals, keep it at 4 or adjust however you need to.
My thoughts on the matter is we can have those overarching goals, but I think we need to be very accurate on what we want to accomplish, even if we come out of there with 1 or 2 things, and specifically a timeline on when we want to see them done. Because if you do something overly broad like economic development and nothing gets done, then we're going to sit here and complain about it. But if we sit here and say we want, change zoning in a certain part of the city, and these are the specific dates that we would like them done by, then we have something that has a timeline and I think is tangible. Then go in and say, hey, we believe in economic development type of thing. So I think we need to make sure we look at that versus how long the meeting will be. Councilor Lowe?
And I believe at the last meeting, we talked about focusing on the comprehensive plan for a certain amount of the meeting because, that work will be going on. So it would be important for us to kind of all be on the same page of how we want that to move forward.
I agree. Thank you for bringing that up. And I think it's in the cover sheet as well that you mentioned that, as well as maybe having time to discuss together, if not before, the results of the survey. Exactly, the resident survey. So
yeah, I requested that we get that ahead of time so we can really go through it and really think about it before we do a retreat.
I agree. And we may, however you want to do that, because it has so much functionality with the software that we picked up with the survey, somebody will want to, or all of you will want to know how to slice and dice that to get whatever it is you're looking for. So there's no, you probably wouldn't want to combine that with your retreat. You probably want to spend some time looking over that data before.
Like I said, I think we just need to make sure we have a game plan going in for the facilitator. That's how we. All right. Anything else regarding the retreat? So you'll send out more dates, I'm assuming?
I can absolutely send out more dates. I can include in the new survey some items that we have closed on, such as the location, the length. And then I can re-ask the items that is still open for discussion if that's what council would like.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, there is
So
a motion.
I'd move to certainly waive the second touch, but direct staff to prepare material. Sorry, we need a date, don't we? And then the
Probably the first one.
facilitator. So the second motion.
Well, if we
So
wanna
the first
bring it-
motion,
yeah.
direct staff to schedule a second touch on this matter. Sorry.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maren.
All right, Item 9, reports. Youth Liaison.
Guys hear me? Perfect. So there's not a lot going on in Sequim in terms of youth because we're in the doldrums of winter right now. The Sequim School District is actually discussing a 2-tiered busing system, which would lead to secondary schools having a later start. That's being discussed by the Sequim School Board right now. The pros to that are, number one, it helps with overcrowding on buses and a whole lot of other things. High schoolers get to sleep in longer. The cons are after school sports go away a lot longer, and it can interfere with parent schedules. That's just being discussed right now. The Sequim Library their renovation is in works right now. They're still working on fundraising. The plan for completion of that is 2025, I believe. Fact check me on that, please. But the new library would include a larger teen space with more books for teens, more chairs, and just more space to hang out after school. Yeah, and the library is continuing to provide events for teens such as board game nights and movie nights every month.
I had a quick question. I'm not sure if you'll know off the top of your head. Do you know when the next school board meeting will be?
It's today, actually. So
The
they
next
overlap. They overlap. There's one today, and then there's one the 12th of February, I believe. So yeah.
I'll be working. Okay, thanks.
We've also received some feedback on the recent survey that we put out about the Centennial Park. So a lot of people have said that it was too long and teenagers have short attention spans. So they didn't like that they had to type. They would prefer multiple choice. So that would be probably increase engagement is if it was multiple choice or they kind of like the ranking system. But I know a lot of people who started it and just never finished it because it took them like 10 to 15 minutes. So.
I do have a comment just regarding the youth liaison position in general. What I view out of the position is exactly what you gave us, results from youth, what they are saying. So that's what I'd love to hear. That gives us actionable items to do. So if you're hearing from the youth that, hey, anything, let us know during this time, so that way we can help you and address those issues. That's what I would love to hear from the liaison. So anything you hear you want to bring to our attention, and feel free to speak up too on any of the other items as well. Sometimes, they might think that they don't pertain to you, guarantees and bonds, but if you have a comment, go for it. All right. Item B, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before I jump into my prepared list, I will comment on the library. So I've heard Noah, who's the executive director, I think, for the whole peninsula. He's got 3 different library branches that he's over, present on the remodel and on his plans. It's pretty interesting. He's got a lot of data on how many the uses and what the type of uses are and these internal plans. So if you would like him to either put a PowerPoint deck with an audio file, or if you want him to come answer questions, he's done a fair amount of that around the city, but not to this body. So, but he's very articulate, and I found his presentation engaging. So just let me know about that. So thank you for bringing that up. Moving on to my list. A couple things you obviously noticed, maybe some new equipment in our lobby. This is due to a water leak last week, thanks to the mayor who contacted me, I think on Martin Luther King. Was that what? I think we were closed. I can't remember if it was a Saturday or Monday, but thank goodness.
Monday, yeah.
Yeah, thank goodness the mayor came through the building and was able to call, and we jumped right on it, but not before we had a shallow lake in the library or in the lobby. So anyway, just we were one of, as you've probably read in the paper, like 19 different facilities in town that had that problem. Anyway, so also wanted just to let you know that Barb Hanna, who's our communication director, made a press release on the iCompass, the new software that you all are using in Laserfish, that's been released to the public, and hopefully, I mean, it's nothing new to you all, but that you may have seen that as well. I'm not sure where to announce this or if it really needs announcing, but this is Amy's last council meeting for a couple months. I'm not sure what the date and all that is, but as you know, she'll be stepping aside for some personal reasons, and then Heather will be the point person for you all going forward. I think that begins after next Monday. So be looking for Heather to be communicating with you from the clerk's office. A couple other just quick admin things. I think I mentioned that we had 500 plus, wasn't sure about the community survey responses, but it turns out it's 506, better than the 300 they said we needed to hit. So almost twice that. So they've got all that data. They're compiling that, and they said that they'll get that back to us and with an executive report and some training in how to use their software in the next several weeks. And speaking as to the Centennial Place online survey, that seems to be complicated for the youth. We have 89 of those back to date, and that survey will stay open until the end of January. So we still got another week and a half on that. So quickly, yes.
Hello. How many results are we looking for the survey for it to be significant?
I don't know if there's a statistically significant number for that one. We're just looking at input. So I haven't heard that. And we had an open house and everything and kind of promoted that. So, and it's been in our newsletter for a couple months. So, we're at 90. So,
Okay.
I didn't think so. Yeah, I don't think there's a target on that. That's a good question, though. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So let me run through a couple of the department targets or points here. Finance, Sue wanted me to let you know that she's continuing to work through the closing the books for last year and all the closing procedures that go with that. So she's up to her eyeballs, and her staff is working hard on that so they can bring that report back to you. The staff W-2s were completed and sent out this week, and they continue to be eyeball deep in this Tyler transformation that we've told you about, and we will continue to tell you about, but it's very exciting that that's in place. February will be the initial rollout of the second module of Tyler, which will be our payroll and HR module. So more on that in the future. From the Department of Community Development, they have their next planning meeting, as you probably heard, February 6th. They also, in combination with Public Works, hold these pretty regular contractor and development meetings here. This kind of grew out of our local building community wanting to be closer to city staff and to what we were thinking and things that we're working on. And it's been a tremendous journey. Very, very little input or suggestions from them. It's mostly information sharing us to them. And so that's going well. And our next meeting for that is Friday, February 9th. And then you may see a new section in the newsletter. Sharice is working with Barbara on creating. We're not sure if it'll be permanent or not, but we're going to try it out in the March newsletter, just as kind of called growth and development, to try to alert our residents on some of the growth and some of the developments coming to town, mostly because there's newsletter's not that long, but with some links that can get people to so that they'll be aware of that. And I thought you'd appreciate that as well. That we're just trying to be super transparent with everybody on that. And speaking of that, I can probably jump to Public Works on this one. The Rolling Hills subdivision, which is, I think, 215 homes. So that subdivision site was cleared. The city is performing inspections and coordination among the consultants out there and doing some site inspections internally. So that's moving forward. And probably the other exciting thing from Public Works is the Silverhorn Deep Well had its pre-construction meeting recently, and the drilling for that begins today, I think. What's that? 29. Oh, begins. Oh, a week from today. Got to read my own writing. Thank you. A week from today. I missed the week. Okay, moving quickly through it. A couple things from HR. I could list the positions that are being posted. We're still looking for a police officer, for a WRF, water reclamation facility operator, and public. Whoa, I'm not even going to announce that, but it's gone public. Public Works director, and then also working with UW on an internship fair to try to see if we can get some interns here to work with the engineers here. And we continue to try to work hard with several universities, as many as we can. We've had nothing but great results with our interns. So we're going to continue to.
I have a quick question about that. How's that program going? Is it totally mutually beneficial?
Totally mutual beneficial.
Cool.
We have not had a bad experience, and as you know, we've done everything we can to make it successful, not only in announcements but in their experience here, including some temporary housing for those that may need it. So it's been really successful. Yeah. Matter of fact, I continue to. You may remember Ava, that was here. So I just got an email from her a couple days ago. She's asking for me to send her a letter of reference, and she's moving forward and still says that this was probably the best experience she's had since she's been in college. So yeah, it was a very positive thing. And then finally, I guess then from our police department, they're holding an internal meeting to continue to move the noise ordinance. I think you all asked about that last time. It's still work in progress, but we're getting closer. There's continued work on the chief succession planning process. Again, these are sensitive and emotional things for me. Hate to see some of our senior staff choose to retire after 35 years. And then so that, and we've also done some sergeant testing and are now moving into the interview process on that. So everything's going well, but there's a fair amount of changes going on in the PD department, but we'll let you know about that as we go forward. And so, yeah, I think that's everything from my list that I wanted to update you on. Questions?
Okay. At our last meeting, my first meeting, somebody made a presentation about the development of the parking lot back here and specifically mentioned EV chargers. And I noticed this last week sometime in the PDN that City of Port Angeles successfully won a significant grant for installing more EV chargers. I've had a couple of city residents mention how beneficial that would be for people that are passing through SQUIM to have an opportunity to park and charge their car and then frequent downtown businesses and restaurants and so on where they're waiting for their car to charge. The PUD lot on the east end of town, I can't remember what that intersection is a great start. I'm sure it's several years old, but it's could probably be expanded significantly. The space in the lot with just two charging ports in it, and then fairly low amperage ports at that. The Tesla thing that's way out east on the Holiday Inn doesn't benefit the
merchants downtown.
Yeah, downtown's the central business district. So that's a great move. I don't know how that's moving along and if there's opportunities with the grant and so on, but it seems like
thank you for that. Megan is leading that charge, trying to get some grants for that. I don't know if anybody else, Nick or Sarah, have an update on that, but we do have a map describing where the chargers are in town and have tried to make that available, and we're certainly trying to expand it, of course. I wish I had more information. Anybody? Oh.
The
Okay.
newspaper said that SQUIM is getting one from that grant.
Looks like Maren has a report for us.
Megan did submit an email. She said the city recently submitted 2 grants for EV chargers to be installed on City Hall property under the CIP project. And then she also says that she receives a grant newsletter from Representative Kilmer along with other funding opportunities, and she's actively participating in applying for any grants she can come across.
Super.
The benefits of getting to your inbox. I'm still trying to get to mine today. Thank you so much, Maren, for that. And thank you for that. Of course, we'll look for, I mean, we know that's where the world's going and we need to support that as much as we can.
All right, moving on. Committee briefs.
Thank you. So this is Harmony, and I was at the Arts Commission meeting this evening, or earlier this evening. It was wonderful. Sarah Hunt does an amazing job running the Arts Commission for the city. And so I just will really briefly go through my notes and kind of share an update so everybody can kind of know what happened at that. The Arts Commission is moving from being overseen by that Barbara and Hannah are working together, and that now the way that the Arts Commission is works with the city is just slightly changing. So still from one really awesome person to another really awesome person. So that's great. And that was a change. There was a lot of discussion about the Sequim Lavender Festival earlier today, and kind of the consensus there is that a wider discussion between the Arts Commission and the folks that run the Sequim Lavender Festival would be beneficial for all parties involved, from how to better I'm going to just leave it there. That a wider discussion needs to be had there. Lots of great comment and input. The music jam that the Arts Commission hosts here in City Council Chamber is very, very popular. However, it's not going to be happening every single month. It's going to only coincide with new art installations in the city's lobby. This does a couple things. It allows the art commissioners to not be stuck here at City Hall every single first Friday, and allows them to be out in the public interacting with other folks in the art scene. Let's see. I didn't write down the second bit there. That's okay. But it's going to be all. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The anytime that the music jam is happening, it will be on the city website. There's a lot of talk about the establishment of a creative district or an arts district. So there's a lot of strategic planning going on in that direction. They're looking for applications from community members to offer workshops to the community, and any workshops that are organized would also be advertised on the city website as an event. Blue Hole Gallery had some leads, and one of the commissioners said she knew a comedian who would be potentially running a comedy workshop. So that's very exciting. The Sunshine Festival mural will be in Carrie Blake on the section of street that exists between the two playgrounds that's blocked off. So there's some consistency there. Everyone is invited to sign up to be a helper for the Sequim Sunshine Festival. There's lots of volunteer opportunities. They also are planning this year to be resilient for the weather. So music and all of that is going to be held inside Guy Cole. There's going to be a big tent outside on the north side of Guy Cole, and the food vendors are going to organize around that. So that will allow for music equipment to stay dry, and then it's great. They're planning it to be very resilient. Okay, the opening weekend of Irrigation Festival, there's plans to do some sort of recycled plastic sculpture in the shape of the Sequim Arts Commission logo. So so they're going to be collecting recycled plastic items from the public, and then having a session where everyone gets together and puts the pieces on the color wheel and create a community art piece that would be mobile and then can go to other Sequim Arts Commission events. That is what I have for now. Thank you very much. Arts Commission was really a great meeting this evening. Thanks.
Anyone else?
On the 1st of January, I went to the new subcommittee of the Marine Resource Committee, but I also stepped away from it at that time. And actually, Harmony's going to do it. I think she's very well suited to be on the Marine Resource Committee. It's a great group of people. And I have to wait for them to ask her to be on the subcommittee. And I don't know that they have said anything to you yet. And then on the 13th, we all went to the employee recognition dinner, which was wonderful. It's so nice to see people in a different setting and to, just be silly and meet their families and, meet people that I haven't actually met yet. It was fun. And then on the 17th, I went to the transit meeting, which is usually 2 hours. And they're always looking for drivers to train. They're always ordering new vehicles. We have a very large county and they put a lot of miles on their vehicles. And this year is fare free for 24 still, except for the straight shot to Seattle. But everybody knows that last month or earlier this month, there was a bus stolen from the transit center in Sequim. And they caught the person and she drove it very carefully. There's no body damage. She will be charged in 2 counties, Mason County and Clallam County. And they are working on new routes all the time to improve the services that they give to people. The Interlink, which is like the little SUV that comes right to your front door and takes you within the larger outer shell of Sequim in the middle only, the ridership is up 74%. They just have to keep adding more vehicles. And I think that's what that bus was. It was on standby in case they had too many people, the bus that the lady borrowed. And then Hurricane Ridge, next year and the years after, they'll probably stop at the day after Labor Day because this year they continued it, but they had very few riders after Labor Day because there's so many out-of-town people that choose to park in Port Angeles, which is wonderful. Walk around Port Angeles, get on the bus, go to spend the day at Hurricane Ridge. They did add more routes at the end of the day when Hurricane Ridge was open because people want to stay. Well, they can't all come back at 3:30, if you've had several busloads of people. So they will get that straightened out for next year. And the housing shortage is affecting employees everywhere. Employees in Port Angeles to get people to work for the bus stop, and it has to be affordable. If you're working as a bus driver or even a teacher, anything, not only do you have to find housing, but you have to be able to pay for it. And they're doing really well with their financially. So they keep an eye on their money and they've got plans to do a lot of new things next year, meaning new routes, new ways to offer transportation to people. The para bus, which is for disabled people, that was up 15% between Sequim and Port Angeles. So people really are making use of not driving. I think 2 of my kids do the Interlink, which is the Pingo. It's an app on your phone and your debit card is embedded in it, but now that it's free, you're not even charged for that. Now, they will not drive you through the drugstore. They will not wait for you at the grocery store. You have to call them again when you're finished and they will come back and get you. But they get you within 30 minutes or they send another vehicle. So it's really working out well and people are very happy with it. That's it. Yes.
Just a point of clarification, when you said earlier that this was the fare free year, you mentioned that all the routes were free except for the straight shot.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean the Hurricane Ridge bus is also going to be in the fare free? My prior understanding that one was also still going to have a fare.
I'm not sure because it's a grant.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know. I will look into it and get back to you.
Thank you.
It wasn't very much. It was only $1.
Right.
Plus you had to buy your national park pass or have one on you to get on it because they skipped the check-in line, which is real. I've never seen them do it. I don't know if they just drive on the wrong side of the road around the booth. I've never seen. I went up on the first bus, but it was just us people on the committee. So there wasn't anybody waiting in line.
Okay.
I'll look into it for you and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, moving on to council discussion. Number A is me, city manager evaluation. So I have been talking with Emily, head of HR, in regards to the city manager evaluation for this year. And you should get an email shortly, hopefully maybe tomorrow, of what I received from her in terms of the timeline. So it's the same consultant as previous years. It was going to happen on the 26th of next month, but he is not available. So May 11th will be the executive session for that. And again, you'll get this email too, so you can have the timeline.
Email has come as you are speaking.
Yes. All right. So yeah, see, January 26th, I should look for an email from the consultant. Survey instructions. February 9th will be the deadline to get those surveys back to him. February 16th, he will set up interviews, and looks like Emily will help set those up, so expect to hear from her. Then you'll have a telephone conversation with the city manager on March 8th. And March 11th, again, will be that executive session to review that with the consultant and the city manager in terms of his evaluation. Does anybody have any questions?
I believe that telephone call is not with the city manager, but with a consultant. Is that true?
Well, it says with the city manager.
Oh, does it? Okay.
It might, that could be wrong, but.
I'll have to double check. Thank you.
Right, no questions. Item B is in regards to the planning meetings. Because we can only have 3 there without properly noting it, that there will be more, for open public meetings and whatnot. I think it's probably beneficial if we decide the meeting before who would like to attend. So that way there's no guessing if we're going to be the 4th person. So.
And there's no violation of the Open Meetings Act by making this big decision. Who's going to be the 3rd person at the meeting?
So would anybody like to attend the next one?
I just wanted to say real quick that I will be at every one, so sorry.
See what this led to from last year.
So the next one will be the 30th, Brandon, or the 6th? The next one is the 6th?
Yeah, since it's, the second
Second.
and 4th Monday, so. Wait,
Second and 4th.
Tuesday.
wait, yeah, okay, yeah.
Always at 2:00?
Yeah, although it very well may change, though. I had to get a job offer, so if I accept it, it very well may change, but I'll obviously let you know if it does.
Do you have any time range of when?
Well,
Would
it
change?
depends on the schedule. It's either going to be 4/10s that I'd work, or a 3-day weekend type of thing. So I just need to figure out what that schedule will be. So tentatively, would you like to attend the next one, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to attend the 6th.
I think this is an easier way to do it.
Like I said, yeah, just that way we're not guessing if we're going to be the 4th person. So, and then obviously if you can't make it, let me know or let Rachel know. We can see if anybody else wants to attend.
Thank you for that comment, because I was curious. I was going to be attending this last one, and then something came up with the weather-related issue at home, and I wasn't sure who to contact on that.
And
I tried to get hold of somebody, and ultimately, I think Maren or somebody helped me check in. But anyway, thank you. We'll get in touch with you or Rachel.
I have a clarification question. Would you like this as a standing item on agendas going forward, or how would you like to proceed if that's something that you wish to ask each time? of
I think that's
council?
okay
or-
with the, it standing.
Okay, thank you.
Since we're not allowed to talk about it.
Correct.
All right. Any other comments on this? Then the other thing I think I just thought of, and it's not on here, but Dan, I think you were on the planning commission when we had our joint meeting last year, right? Correct? And the chair at the time wanted to know if you could work on things that you thought were important, right? Do you remember that?
Us personally or the planning commission?
The planning commission.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, that's
And I
right.
said that as long as they met those goals, that you were free to work on whatever you wanted without having to wait for a directive from council. So my question is, if we want to follow that thinking of empowering the three committees, arts, parks, and planning, to work on items that they see fit that meet our goals, to go ahead and do it, not wait for us to give them something to work on or for staff to give them something to work on. Going back to the philosophy of not playing defense and proactively working on items. So first off, I would like to ask if that's council's ideas for those committees. Do we want them to do such?
I'd be okay with that, with the caveat of like if other priorities come up, you know, like CIP stuff or.
I think that, yeah, that's obviously a given, but I don't want.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, if this, when the CIP wasn't a thing, I mean, how often did they cancel if they didn't have anything or to one item type of thing?
I'm fine with the arts committee because temporary art, they have very strict guidelines what they can and cannot do. Permanent art comes through city council anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a problem. Now, who was the other group?
Well, the parks and planning.
Well, yeah, we already gave planning commission. I think we should continue that. I don't have a problem with the parks planning things, although it usually involves a lot of money.
Is that what we would like to see the committees do?
Yeah, in principle, I like what you're suggesting. It's good, a good way forward.
With your last comment there, Kathy, were you when you mentioned that when the parks plan something, there's a lot of money, so then that would mean that it would have to come through council anyway? Was that what you were?
Well, I'm not sure that everything they do does not take money, but new equipment, using the same land or a building differently, you know, things like that, which they would have to come to council anyway, right? Yeah, I'm fine with it. They actually know more about the art and more about parks than I do.
Thank you for, I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying there. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I just want them to be able to be proactive and not, like I said, wait for us to give them something. So
I think
That
that's a
would be
great idea. And I saw Vicky's hand out of the corner of my eye here.
yeah. Did you have a question, Counselor?
I just agree. I think, you know, we have members of the community on those commissions advisory, and I think they bring their expertise and knowledge to the table, and that just, you know, helps us not miss things. So I also agree that pretty much anything that they come up with, especially if it's a big ticket item, is going to come through the council anyways, but it would be good to give that same directive to the other two commissions that we gave to the planning commission.
So going back to my question is, personally, I would like to directly let them know. So my question to council is, I can A, do it in my own personal capacity, or if council would like, I can do it on behalf of the council if a majority of us agree.
Latter.
I'd prefer on behalf of, if we can do a
Everybody agree with that?
consensus.
Okay. I will reach out to them. All right. Anybody else have anything for open comment?
Just huge shout out to Public Works having to bust their butts through the snowstorm. I was terrified for them for like 3 days straight. So I'm just so thankful that we have great crews that work so hard. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ditto. Okay. I have a question and I have an idea. Okay, the question is, does something have to be on the capital improvement plan for our departments to look for grants? Yes or no?
No. I think she's very active looking for money. I mean, certainly we're looking for things that are on there, but she gets newsletters from all the legislatures, including, Kilmer and national as well as state. So, but she takes direction from you all and or what's on the CIP, but I think she's looking constantly for funds. But
Go ahead, Sarah. I have an idea for something.
It depends on the requirements of the grant. Some types of funding sources say that it has to be on your CIP, but other types, they don't require that. And I'm going to follow up with Megan a little bit on the EV charger thing, because like you mentioned, I feel like I remember her saying that some of the more regional grants that she had applied for or been a participant in, that the city of Sequim is actually going to receive some EV chargers as part of that. I'll follow up with her to make sure that I'm not misspeaking.
Yeah, that's great. And
Because it was in the paper doesn't mean it's true. I read it in the paper.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's wonderful if we can get grants, but I think it would also just be a really good investment for the city.
Yeah.
If we can't get grants. So
was that?
Can I ask my question? I mean, maybe you know this. I mean, it's not a question, it's an idea. The city of Sequim is in the unique position that we own a park, an undeveloped park that is on two sides of 101. And that is a very unique situation because I think that we should consider a wildlife crossing.
What's on?
And it could be
two
wildlife and
sides?
people.
What is on two sides of 101?
Keeler Park.
I did not realize that.
Isn't it city property where the cows are on one side of the street?
Uh-huh.
And Keeler Park is across the street also?
Keeler Park is on the south side of 101.
Yeah.
Right, but I thought it was on the north side also.
No.
Well, rats. I was getting all excited about a wildlife crossing.
I was trying to figure out how that would work into the CIP.
Well,
So
if we
we're talking
did
about
only,
the literate elk that read the sign and say, this is where you
Exactly.
cross.
yeah, scoop your own poop. That's the other sign. Okay, never
Yeah, sorry.
mind. Thank
Sorry.
you, though. Now I'm disappointed.
Just a comment, Kathy. I think we spoke about it, but I think some of the confusion in terms of grants is that we always see things like, PAs get them and things like that. And then we're like, why aren't we getting such things even if we're applying? So I think if she's able to give us some heads up on what she's applying for type of things, that way we're not left in the dark and saying, hey, why is PA getting this or Port Townsend and we're not? Are we even applying for it type of thing? Because I think we all understand, sometimes it has to be in the CIP. Sometimes it's for population limits type of thing. So at least, give us a heads up so that way we're not scratching our heads wondering why everybody else is getting stuff and we're not.
And I don't have any doubt that she isn't
Yeah.
applying for everything under the sun that she can apply for. It also, like you were saying, depends on some of them might have requirements that we don't meet.
Yeah.
And so we can't apply for those. I mean, we could, but it would be a waste of time, and so
I think it just makes sense that, hey, we don't meet the criteria for that one.
Mhm.
That's why we're not getting that in PAs type of thing.
I just wanted to plug, I believe Megan is applying
I-
for everything she can.
However, I'm happy to let me visit with her and with Sarah, Nick, so we can decide whether she should periodically come on a quarterly basis or make a link available for you to get to, some kind of spreadsheet or something that's helpful for you all to look up and then ask questions about her. We'll figure out a good way to.
It was mentioned that she received the emails from Representative Kilmer. If you, I mean, for me, that'd be just forward those to me. If she's applying directly to those type of things, that way it saves her and I can like look at them like, hey, are you applying for this type of one? Simple question if I want to have a question on it.
Okay, we'll work on figuring that out and getting back to you on that. Thank you.
Anything else from council? Open discussion? Vicky.
I just want to follow up on the proclamation list that got sent out. So I've kind of volunteered to work on those for now, but if you all see anything on there that you're interested in working on, I'm happy to work with you or let you take a stab at a proclamation, and have gotten great help with the staff on editing those two, and also if there's community members to connect with on those proclamations, the different awareness days, and especially any of the heritage months. So just wanted to share that.
So my thinking on proclamations is, even though they're coming from whoever the mayor is at the time, I still find it beneficial that if any of you have things that you're passionate about that wish to make in proclamation form, I'm okay with, signing it type of thing. Although I might ask for you to read it during those meetings because there's going to be a lot of them at certain meetings. So, but I'm okay with the amount if it's what counselors are passionate about and want to bring awareness to. So if there's half a dozen on one night, I'll read half a dozen of them. So yeah, if you have wording or know people in the community that can receive them, get those to me as well so I can reach out to them.
Thank you, Brandon. I wanted to bring up a discussion this evening, and I would love to hear the feedback, the commentary from counselors who have been on council for a while on this subject. In light that we are just coming out of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, and an observation, and to follow up on that proclamation, I am curious if there's any interest in potentially revisiting the community conversations. Those happened in 2021, I believe. There was a organized City of Sequim event, community conversations on race and equity. So I just wanted to hear maybe some thoughts from counselors who were on council at that time, and just kind of gauge interest. I think maybe it might be interesting to bring it back. I know that the facilitators still live in the area, the folks who did facilitate it, and we could potentially reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in facilitating again. But again, only if council I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I would say that I think that a community effort would be really beneficial for that. I'm not so sure about using city staff or city resources. However, that being said, back then the city did have a membership with GARE, and I think that's the acronym, and I can't remember what it stands for. But I do remember that they had some great resources that the community conversations group could use. And I think it's a great idea if it can be spearheaded by members of the community at large, but not necessarily using up staff time and resources when there's already a lot on their plate.
Vicky?
I wasn't on council then, but I was part of the community group that worked with the city staff to make this happen. And then I was one of the facilitators. And I disagree with Rachel because I think if we leave it to the community, there needs to be somebody who leads it. And what happened before was the former city manager brought together the institutions and started the work. But then when he left, there was kind of a gap, and GARE stands for Government, I think, Alliance for Race and Equity. I think that is really important in government. I think it's really, for me, why it's important to do these proclamations to understand the different parts of our community. And even tonight, we heard from our youth liaisons, that our survey was really lacking for them. And so those are the kinds of things that, making sure that what we put out is something that all of our citizens can take part in. And so we have youth liaisons to give us feedback on the survey, but I don't know about other community members that didn't take it. You could almost do a survey on taking surveys, which would be ridiculous. But I think without putting something into it, we are not going to get that feedback, and we're going to continue to only serve the same people we have been serving, and that's not our whole community. If you look over on the wall at our vision statement there, it's our job to take care of our whole community. So I agree with Harmony that it's a good time to really visit bringing that back.
Would council want to queue this up for next meeting as an agenda item? Or do we want to discuss it here?
I don't mind having it on the agenda.
Are you okay with that?
Sure. Can I say just one? I wasn't on council during that either, and I did attend part of it. The council people that needed to hear it did not participate. And the people in the community that may have needed to hear it did not participate. So I don't mind doing it. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. We all have a lot to learn, including me, but I don't want to burden the city staff with it because they are so busy. Maybe we could use city facilities, I don't know, or the Guy Colson or whatever, but it's worth discussing and then at the next meeting.
I can save this for next meeting. We maintained our membership in that organization so that we'd have access to resources, and anybody can, we can give anybody access to that. So we thought that was worth the annual subscription. And then I'd have to go back and look at it. I think this came up. I wasn't here when all that was occurring, but somebody brought it up after I did arrive. And so I sent some kind of survey. I'll have to go back and look, but I sent an email out or a letter out to as many of the community entities that I think were participating in that, and asked if they were still doing that in their organization, and let them know that it was a council conversation, and that if they wanted city to participate, so in what they were doing, to let us know, and we'd be happy to, provide support or participate. So let me go back and look at that, but we did send something out, and I can try to add that to the conversation next time. But so there's been some, at least reaching out to the old entities, but that's been a year or more ago. And any of you can access that website should you wish. So.
Vicki?
I just want to add that it wasn't, I don't think the membership was continued because the former council, like 2 councils ago, ended it. So it maybe restarted it. But I just want to say that these kinds of things, diversity and equity, and understanding about how to work with people who have come from different perspectives of in the world, they actually save time if you are, making sure that the work you're doing is inclusive. I think we spend a lot of time on not understanding people and not understanding their perspective, and then maybe not having a good interaction. And then staff time is really wasted on trying to fix things after they've been broken. So that's one of the reasons I think they're important. So I don't think it is overburdening or a waste of time to make these efforts. I just want to be clear that it is important that we have a government that serves all of our community members, and that we all really understand what that means. Sorry.
Anything else from council?
Definitely got a lot of conversation out of that one. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts and where we're going or ideas for where we could go. I think that, yeah, at this point, it sounds like we would need to do some more research about how to make the event come to life or bring it back. And then, yeah, I guess maybe we should, I'm sorry, as a new counselor, I'm still trying to figure out, and our conversations sometimes go in like this. So maybe if someone would help me out here, I think it might make sense for us to bring it back to another meeting. I'm seeing your hand, Vicki.
I forgot to add, I spoke to the other community members who kind of are part of the community group and the other facilitators, and they are also busy and are hoping for more people to step up and help. So I do know that there were some people from the League of Women Voters who were interested, and I think maybe the library. So Harmy, I'm happy to talk to you maybe sometime in the next week to kind of brainstorm some ideas, and then maybe we can bring them back next meeting.
That would be great.
All right. Anything else from council on anything?
Move to adjourn.
It is past my bedtime. I second that.
Thank you.